Hello, Garland Nixon here, and the rather absurd nature of the latest section of tariffs and sanctions make them noteworthy and worth discussing. Let's talk. Hello, Garland Nixon here, and so what do we have? We have the latest section of sanctions against Russia and tariffs against Canada. And I think that these are particularly noteworthy for a number of reasons. And I think we, meaning me, and I guess you guys are in the chat, we need to discuss these things. Although I'll say this, every now and then I read the chat and I'm like, hey, I think they're just hanging out here. I think the chat for a lot of people is like a place to hang out. There's like conversations going out on the side. I think sometimes people are like, it's just, I wish Garland would just shut up so we could enjoy ourselves in the chat. We're having a great conversation. If he would shut his stinking yap, we could have some fun. Well, that's not the way it works, but I'm glad you guys are enjoying yourself in the chat. Hello, everybody. Where's Chicken Patty? Where's Myra Page? Where's everybody? Hello, all. And Skeptical Jerk and everybody. Anyway, let's get cooking. Very interesting here, what's going on in the sanctions and tariff world. Let's start with the tariffs. You know, for those of you who don't know what these tariffs are about, supposedly, this is what we're told that they're about. What we're to understand is that some Ontario, some political faction, I'm not sure who, but coming out of Canada, there was an ad. Apparently, Ronald Reagan was involved, and apparently it was some kind of an anti-tariff ad, right? Okay, well, they're Canada. They can run an ad about whatever they want to. Apparently not. Because what happened was, as I understand it, Donald Trump either saw the ad, got wind of the ad, was unhappy of the ad, and said, that's it, Canada, you get 10% more in tariffs. Now, I think this is noteworthy for this reason. A couple of things. Number one, what we've seeing of Donald Trump is, again, this is America, right? Now, let's start here. The initial reaction of a reasonable person would be, well, wait a minute. This is our economy. These are things that could have a negative effect on our economy. Decisions about our economy should be made based on what's in the best interest of our economy, what hurts our economy. It shouldn't be because somebody got their feelings hurt, somebody felt they were criticized. Tariffs should not be used as a punishment. That's not the way. Sorry, I'm turning my phone off. That's not the way economy is. Economics is supposed to work. Geopolitical economics, international economics. If you're supposedly running a country or you're at the top, you're supposed to make decisions based on what's in the best interest of the country, not on what hurts your feelings. However, while it seems absurd, and it is that Trump does it, think about this. Decisions should be made based on what is in the economic interest of the country. And by the country, what do we mean? We're supposed to mean the masses, the citizens, the majority of the people. But let me ask you this. They start these wars. Is that in the best interest of the people or the masses? And not only do these various regime change wars, not only is it obvious they're not in the best interest of the masses, so much so, and the masses understand it, that they have to lie and deceive the masses. What happened in 1991? In 1991, the U.S. wanted to go to war with Iraq. Wanted to do a regime change. Wanted to attack Iraq. Wanted to weaken the military of Iraq, right? And so, what did they do? They came up with this scheme. Iraq has done something bad to Kuwait, and therefore we need to step in. Well, you could get into a lot of details about how that came about, but my point is the American people weren't down for it. So what did they do? They went and got this public relations firm, And they cooked up a lie. They cooked up a scheme. And the scheme was Iraq soldiers are taking babies out of incubators and throwing them on the ground to die so they can take the incubators back to Baghdad. Now, it was an absolute lie. And in fact, we later found out that the so-called woman who was supposed to be just, like a nurse or something in the hospital, who came before Congress to tell the story, was not neither. She was like the daughter of a Kuwaiti diplomat. In other words, basically, or a Kuwaiti high-ranking person. At any rate, it was a lie. After that lie, they were able to get the support up to 60% in America, and then they went forward with their war. In other words, they were going to embark on a war that was not in the best interest of the people. They had to lie to get the people behind it, and off they went with the war. Here's my point. For those of you who say Trump is acting, arbitrarily, in an arbitrary and capricious nature, and in a way that is not in the best interest of the citizens, my argument would be, I absolutely agree with you, but that ain't new. Neoliberalism itself is not in the best interest of the citizens. What we have been seeing for decades now is the working class people getting thrown under the bus. Look, I'll put it to you like this. Every year or two, every 3 years or so, we get these massive tax cuts for the rich. And when people say, well, what about the minimum wage? We couldn't possibly do that. That would wipe out the economy. That would destroy the economy. In other words, you can never, ever, ever raise the minimum wage. But what you can do is you can give massive tax cuts and increase them every 3 to 5 years. And then when the whole thing falls apart in 2008, you just bail out all the banks. You allow the banks, as has been said over and over, capitalism for the working class, socialism for the rich. The government bails them out. Isn't that great? Can you imagine starting a business knowing that you could have the worst possible business practices, that you never need to make a dime, that you could set it up so you cheat, lie, and steal, fill your pockets. And when your crooked, rotten, lowly business went bad, the government will come in and bail it out. And you could do it again, and they bail you out again. And if you violated the laws and the rules in that business, violated every law known to man, that the government would still come in and bail you back out, and they'd never prosecute you. And if anybody tried to stop you or go after you, the government would hunt them down and prosecute the people that were trying to stop you. That's the country that we live in. So my point being this, and I've said this many times, Donald Trump is not some anomaly. Donald Trump is pure America, arbitrary and capricious. So now we look at it and we're like, oh my God, this is crazy. He's going to hurt the taxpayers. Let me ask you this. I don't know if you can count, but I suspect you can. We spent $1 trillion in Afghanistan for what? We spent $1 trillion in Afghanistan so we could spend $1 trillion in Afghanistan. What, like $1.5 trillion or close to it, actually. $1.5 trillion in Afghanistan. Why did we do that? So we could spend $1.5 trillion. The money was laundered. The money was stolen. Imagine if that $1.5 trillion was spent here. Or what have we spent? It's like $300 billion in Ukraine. Minimum, probably more, and go on and still going. So the bottom line is this: how much have we spent on $100 or $200 billion in the whole? I mean, how many billions, hundreds of billions of dollars? Because they're not counting them all. Have been spent in the Middle East war just in the last 3 years, as they slaughtered civilians. Unthinkable amounts. They've told us that they've given $30 billion to Israel. That is a joke. It's a joke. $30 billion, indeed. So my point being this: we can look at what Trump is doing with Canada and say, how ridiculous is that? Oh, your feelings got hurt. You get 10%. Ha, ha, ha. And you're like, oh, you shake your head. And you say, have you stopped to think how that could affect our economy? No, you haven't. Your feelings were hurt. And what do you care? But my point being this: what Trump is doing isn't new. What Trump is doing isn't strange. What Trump is doing isn't different. The government of the United States does not act on behalf of the people, point blank, period. And I don't know when it has. So we can be mad at Trump. We can say that's ridiculous and absurd. All those things will be right. But is it more ridiculous and absurd than fighting in Afghanistan for 20 years, spending $1.5 trillion and saying the whole time we can't possibly leave? Because if we leave, it'll be an incubator for terrorism. Al Qaeda will spring up everywhere, and then they'll come over here and get us. And then you wake up one morning and go, what do you think about Afghanistan? Well, we're out. We're gone. We're done. Well, what about all of that business about the terrorism, Al Qaeda, ISIS? Yeah, well, okay, fair enough. But we're gone anyway. Screw it. Yeah, it was all lies. We're moving on. Now what happens? We go to Ukraine. Let me ask you this. Do you think Ukraine's a money laundering operation? I say that rhetorically. It is nothing. They don't want to stop Ukraine because, man, what a great money laundering operation. Hundreds of billions, tens of billions. Think about this for a second. Tens of billions, hundreds of billions of dollars pouring into the most corrupt country on earth. Now, we know that Joe Biden's son Hunter went and got his. He went in there and he got his. We know that Amos Hochstein, Biden's boy, who's over in Israel trying to help them steal the Palestinians' gas and oil now. We know that he went and got his. Cofer Black went and got his. We know that Pelosi's kids. We know that Mitt Romney's kids. We know that all of them went into Ukraine and got theirs. There's all kind of rumors about Lindsey Graham getting a lot of money. But here's what we know. They were sending money to Ukraine. And for some weird reason, the Ukrainians were investing in crypto. Hey, you got to give us money. Podolyak says you got to give us money. And we're going to take that money to fight Putin. We got to get the money to fight Putin. Wait a minute. Oh, we got a great tip on crypto. We got to buy some Ethereum and Bitcoin. We're giving them money. And they're going, what, tips on crypto? Hey, what are you going to do with that money there, with that extra $1 billion you got there, Zelensky? Got a great tip on crypto. So here's my point. As we condemn, rightly so, Donald Trump for this preposterous, I'm going to tariff people because I don't like an advertisement, as absurd as that seems. In reality, through a historical lens, that is pennies. That is nothing as compared to the amount of money that is stolen from us, the working class people, out of our tax coffers, out of the national treasury. Now, you can argue it doesn't come out of our tax dollars. It comes out of money that's printed. What difference does it make? The money is created and it should be ours. It should be spent on our roads. It should be spent on our healthcare. It should be spent on our food. It should be spent on our homes. It should be spent on our colleges. It should be spent on our everything. And we don't get a dime of it. And the billionaires just get richer and richer and richer, and everybody gets poorer and poorer. There are more people living in their cars. There are more people living in. Think about this. We have a country where people now more and more are living in cars and RVs and an old boat on the side of the road when people can't make it, where people are starving. But unlimited money is being spent by our government is spending like drunken sailors. Remember what we heard from Trump? Yeah, Biden and his people spent like drunken sailors, and he was right. And now look, he just did. Let's see. Argentina borrowed $60 billion from the IMF, which they'll never pay back. Which again, that's American money printed. They borrowed $20 billion from Trump, from the U.S., which they'll never pay back. And they borrowed another $20 billion from the U.S., which they'll never pay back. That's $100 billion right there. Gone to Argentina. Boom, see you later. What could we do with $100 billion? Do you think we could address homelessness here? You think we could address all the problems that working class people had with $100 billion from there, with $1.5 trillion from Afghanistan, with hundreds of billions of dollars going to Ukraine? I mean, on and on and on. And you wonder why we've got a giant deficit, because they all spend money like drunken sailors, and then they run for office and they just lie. You know what? To me, the stupidest people, and I will say this to the people in the chat, you are wise. The stupidest people to me are the people that are left hanging on to the Republican or Democratic Party. You know, the people that after all of this, okay, if you're a Democrat, after 2020, Joe Biden came in and said, oh, yes, we've got to do something about health care. We got to do something about the minimum wage. Oh, we're going to diplomacy for foreign policy and all this kind of crap. Every word of it was a lie. Every word of it was a lie. Joe Biden did not address a single thing that he said he was going to address, and he spent money like hell. He spent every dime he could on war and lied and was involved in a genocide. What happened? Donald Trump comes in. Yes, we've got it. I'm going to get rid of the warmongers and the neocons. Yeah, he got rid of them, all right. He loaded his cabinet with them. And now what is he doing? Yes. What did he say? Judge me by the wars I stop and the wars I don't start. Oh, really? Would that include, I don't know, what's happening in the Middle East? Would that include your attack on faux attack on Iran and your constant argument for another war in Iran? Will that include encircling Venezuela with ships and submarines and things and threatening to attack them in a war of aggression and just literally blowing up boats full of people? Blowing up boats full of people and then lying to the American people and saying they're drug boats when you know that's a lie. And then when Colombia says, hey, don't do that, that's not right. Oh, yeah, well, we'll fix you. How about some tariffs for you, buddy? And sanctions. They sanction the president of Colombia and his family because he is opposed to the United States killing random people, some from Colombia, in boats. I mean, it's absurd what we're looking at. If you are a Democrat and you still support the Democratic Party, you're out of your mind. And if you're a Republican and you still think Trump is the answer or that he is anything other than just another puppet for the system and an arbitrary lunatic at that, if you still believe any of that stuff, I don't know what to tell you. You're lost. And, you know, let me say this. We do not deserve to be treated like this by our government. We do not deserve to be lied like this to our government. We do not deserve to be abused by our government. But if you're still a Democrat and you somehow think that all you got to do is get the Democrats back in power and it'll all be fixed, or if you're a Republican and you still think that Trump is trying to fight the deep state and stop the neocons and he's planning on doing, if you're either of those things, well, then you actually really do deserve it. I mean, none of us really deserve it. But if you can watch people lie to you and then within months after getting in office completely reverse their stance, I don't care what you say, I care what you do. And if you, let's just say this, let me add this. You're a what are they called? The libertarians. And you're like, yes, Malaya's in. Look, I saw him on stage with a chainsaw. And this guy's doing like crypto scams. He's doing pump and dump crypto scams, filling his pocket. And a year or two after he's in, yes, Malay's in. He's got a chainsaw. He's going to do a great job already. Fair enough. And I was like, well, why is it as soon as he got elected, he came straight to Wall Street, met with the Wall Street bankers? Why is it that he's an absolute Zionist puppet? Okay, but let's see how he does. I'm cutting everything, getting rid of everything, firing everybody. And all these libertarians are like, yeah, this man's doing it. Go for it. Well, if he is a libertarian and he truly believes in this self-sufficiency and all of this, when everything went to hell, he wouldn't come to Trump and say, give me some money. Oh, what a hell of a libertarian, huh? What happened? Well, I made decisions, didn't seem to work out. My country's broke. What are you going to do, Mr. Libertarian, now that your country is broke? Oh, what are you kidding me? I'm going to do the same damn thing the Wall Street bankers do. I'm going to get a bailout from the United States. He don't sound like much of a libertarian to me. Where's all of everything's going to work out great. It's going to be fine. And because I believe in personal responsibility, if I make decisions, if my country made a decision to elect me, and if I make a decision to screw my country, then both me and my country got to eat it. Right? Oh, personal responsibility. What happened? Well, they elected me. I cut everything. The whole country went to hell. Personal responsibility? Not exactly. personal responsibility. Well, okay. By personal responsibility, I mean you, American taxpayer, are going to be personally responsible for my stupidity and the absurdity of my policies. Thank you. Thanks for your money, suckers. And then we find out that good old Scott Bessent, that his business partner, the one that made him rich, invested all of his money in Argentina. And he came to Scott Bessent and said, hey, I bought all of this Argentinian debt. And if they crash, I crash. And Bessent and Trump went, well, then you ain't going to crash. That's the way it works. It was social. You know how Trump tells you, I hate socialism. Socialism. Get the government off my back. Oh, really? What about Argentina's back? The government's going to be on their back because we got to hand them money. Wall Street. The war machine. But you see, here's the difference with Trump and Biden. Trump's out in the open with it. The Bidens, the Hillarys. Look what Hillary did. You know who hates the Clintons more than anybody? The Haitians. The Clintons, I don't know how much you know, but they had that, 2010 earthquake, and the Clintons went down there, raised $1 billion and kept every dime of it. I think they built 6 houses and a luxury hotel. Stole every dime of these poor Haitians. Tens of, I don't know how many thousands of people killed in an earthquake. The Clintons went and stole every dime of it. That's the free market they believe in. Theft. Were they any of them ever prosecuted? Remember Trump? If I get in, I'm going after the Clinton. I'm going after the Clinton Foundation. Everybody knows how crooked they were. Yes, they've got to be held accountable. Trump gets in. Okay, you're going after the Clinton Foundation, but Trump said, "Well, I think the Clintons have been through enough." And by been through enough, he means they've been through enough of your money. And that's the game. And now now Trump's sitting around throwing tariffs because somebody got aggravated him because he didn't like their ad. What do you think about Canada's ad? I hate it. I'll fix them sons of bitches. 10% for them. Make it 11. No, he probably said 5. 5% for them. Now screw that. I hated the ad really bad. 10. I'm the president. 10% for them. It's pretty pathetic when you think about it. But it is a very accurate representation of the arbitrary and capricious nature of empire. The same empire that says, we're going to attack Venezuela. Why? Yeah, steal all their oil. I mean, did I say steal all their oil? I meant we're going to stop drugs. And then the U.S. goes, oh, we overthrew the government of Ukraine and inserted a puppet government. And the Russians are invading a smaller country. Remember this? Kamala Harris, you've got a big country. She talked to everybody like they were in first grade. Okay, boys and girls, we've got a big country. That's Russia. And indeed, a teeny weeny country. That's Ukraine. And a big, mean country is attacking the little teeny country. Oh, no, we're getting attacked. Oh, yes, boys and girls. And we're opposed to that because we don't like big, mean, monster-y countries. That was her. Boy, big countries attacking little countries. We never want that. Opposed to that. We are absolutely against that. What about Venezuela? Well, they got a lot of oil there. So, okay, every now and then you got to crack an egg every now and then if you want to make an omelet and stuff like that. But they got oil. That's all I'm trying to say. When it comes to, okay, big country, small country, yeah, that's bullshit. They got oil. We're taking the oil. And where are the Democrats on that? Oh, I know they're standing up. All against that. Oh, Venezuela, you can't do that. That would be wrong. We're the Democrats. They're brown people. They're indigenous people. They're people of color. I bet they got trans people there. Probably LGBTQ. We're the Democrats. We're going to say, no, they're not. They're like, hey, Trump's like, hey, Democrats. I say we overthrow Venezuela and steal all the oil and divvy the money up. The Democrats are like, yeah. Oh, did you say divvy the money up? You say oil? We're in. Count me in. Let's do it. They hate Trump. He's terrible. He's horrible. They can't stand Trump. They hate his guts. Hey, what do you want to do, Trump? I'm going to overthrow a country. Well, I might have been out of line with calling Trump all of those names. Perhaps he's not as bad a guy as I thought he was. Let's go on and let's overthrow this country. That's where we are. Now, here's the interesting part. They're going to overthrow the country. They intend to overthrow the country. They intend to steal all the oil. And they intend to split the money amongst the ruling elite. See, a couple of people I've heard this, and I'll disagree with Richard Wolff and Michael Hudson on something. I'm going to disagree with them, although I think they're brilliant, and I'm probably wrong and they're probably right. I'm just going to take a position. What Michael Hudson has said is, look, they're doing it for financial purposes. With this $37 trillion in debt, and they want to try to take over Venezuela, so that way they can steal the oil, they can sell oil on the market, they can get money for that, and of course they can, when they have the oil fields, the finance capital interest, the big bank owners can come in and they can use the oil fields as the commodity as collateral, and say we can now lend and borrow against these oil fields that we are in charge of, because that is a hard piece of collateral. Okay, it sounds good. And it may be true. Probably is. I'm probably wrong. I'm just going to throw in an alternative. They got no intention of paying any damn debts off, and they could care less. They want to overthrow Venezuela so they can steal the money for the ruling elite, divide it amongst themselves, keep the money, and to hell with the deficit. That's your problem, working class. They ain't going to steal the money. And I mean, I understand. Michael Hudson's probably right and I'm probably wrong. I'm just throwing out an alternative. Perhaps they want to overthrow Venezuela so they can take the oil and use it to pay off the $37.9 trillion in debt. That's a possibility. Or perhaps they want to overthrow Venezuela so they can steal every dime that ain't nailed down. And Donald Trump Jr. and Hunter Biden and Mitt Romney Jr. and all of John Kerry Jr. and the same people that went into Ukraine and stole everything that it wasn't nailed down will now go into Venezuela and steal everything that's not nailed down. And not only will they not pay off any part of the $37.9 trillion debt, whatever it costs for a war in Venezuela will get added to the debt, $37.9 trillion. So they'll steal $1 trillion from Venezuela, and they will still add another $3 trillion to the debt, because they'll steal $2 trillion more just for general purposes. How about that? How about I'm so cynical that I think that Michael Hudson is giving these people the benefit of the doubt by saying they'll steal the money and they'll pay off the debt. They ain't paying off the debt. They have no intention of paying off the debt. Now, stealing the money, they're all over that one. And he said, because what Michael Hudson said was, Iran and Venezuela are about, money. It's about the debt. It's about, okay, we're going to do this and we're going to get this money to deal with the debt. And I say it makes sense and it sounds reasonable, except these sons of bitches are so damn filthy, dirty, and greedy that they ain't going to do that. They just want to steal the money. See, here's the thing. When Biden got out of office, do you think he cares about the debt? When Trump, if he lives to get out of office, do you think he cares about the debt? You think Trump Jr., Barron, Smarin, Heron, any of the other Trumps, you think Hunter Biden or any of the others, John Kerry Jr., whatever his stinking name is, do you think any of these people care about the debt? No. When they're in office, they must pretend like they care about the debt. And they can use that as an excuse to go out and do all kinds of devious things so they can steal money. So once they get out, the debt's your problem. They ain't worried about the debt because they know at some point they'll be out of office and they don't have to pay it. But whatever they steal while they're in office, they get to keep once they get out of office. You see what I'm saying? So if I'm Trump or his loyal minions, if I steal all the money from Venezuela and pay off the debt, I don't get any of it. If I steal all the money from Venezuela and put it in my filthy pocket and then I leave and I ain't got to worry about the debt. Maybe I'm just so cynical that I think it's the latter. Again, I ain't Michael Hudson. I'm not Richard Wolff. They're probably right. I'm just a schlep. I'm just saying I'm more cynical than they are. I've been hanging around Mark Sloboda, okay? I've been hanging around Mark Sloboda. I have been hanging around a professional cynic. Yeah, the good guys, not an amateur. This guy is the Tiger Woods of cynics, okay? So I'm just saying, I think perhaps Venezuela is all about stealing money for themselves. Think about it. They don't even steal money for the country, right? It's actually the opposite. They don't steal money to pay off the debt. They don't steal money from around for the country. What they do is they use the money of the country. They use the resources of the country, right? So that they can fill their own pockets. I'm president of the United States. I have access to the US government and I spend $1 trillion. And spending $1 trillion of the US government's money, I make $0.5 trillion for myself. Okay, one may look at that and count and say, hey, you know what? You came out $0.5 trillion ahead. No, I didn't. No, I didn't. I came out $1.5 trillion ahead. Here's why. What happens if I get to spend somebody else's money to make money? If I'm spending your money, if I spend $1 million, billion, $1 trillion and I make $100, what do I care? I made $100. I made it for free. I didn't have to use my money to make it. My point is the people in power use our money to make whatever they can. And they don't care if it's 10 to 1. They don't care for every $1 trillion of our money they spend, they make 100 billion. Why? Because it's our money. It's 900 billion that they don't have to worry about because it ain't theirs. And then when they get out of office, they walk away with $100 billion. I come in office, I don't have anything. I walk out of office, I got another $10 billion that I didn't have before. Or if you're a member of Congress, you don't make as much. Say you got another 40 million. But you didn't spend it. Yeah, I got it free by spending US money. Giving contracts to people, you get a piece of that. Helping other people get government contracts and all kinds of money. Then God knows you get a war going, you go in there and you're funneling money everywhere. Oh, we got to build 46 bio research labs. Well, guess what? Hunter Biden's company was instrumental in funneling CIA money and other dark money into these 46 labs. You think Hunter Biden didn't get his piece of that? And you think the big guy didn't get his 10% or more? So what do they care? So what do? They take US government money and they funnel it to build those labs, which isn't their money, it's ours. And then they cut a piece of it, which they keep once they're out of office. That's the whole game plan. So what does Trump care about these tariffs? Who does he care? He'll be dead or he'll be out of office. They don't care. So he's like, yeah, aggravate 10%. And here's what the world gets to see. And I think it's good. The world's now looking, saying the United States is not an honest, a good faith player on the world stage. Right? And we never were. We never were. But now with Trump, they get to see it so clearly. Oh my God. The world looks and they says, really? The leader of a country just gave somebody tariffs because they aggravated him with an ad? Wow, why? Those people are insane. Yes. And it's best for all of us if you know just how insane the leadership of this country is. Now, let's move on. Oh, it's asking me, is my Duran hat a Duran hat? Yes, it's a Duran hat. Anyway, now, somebody, Department of Transparency, DOGE, wasn't that a good one? Wasn't that DOGE a good one? They went in there and they're like, yes, we're going to save money. And what are you going to do with that money? Well, we need to add $150 billion to the, you like that? They kind of left that one out, huh? Hey, we got to lay off a bunch of people, a bunch of soccer moms working for the Department of Environment or something. And right, a bunch of everyday schmucks who live in regular houses and got kids going to school, and they're regular old working class people who work for the government. We're going to lay them all off. Why? Because they're lazy and we got to save money. Really? What are you going to do with that money? Oh, it's going straight to the military industrial complex. $150 billion gone right to the Pentagon. Don't you love that? That was DOGE, the Department of Government, whatever, efficiency. So it's more efficient to take this money and give it to the Pentagon than it is for working class people to use it to feed their families, to put a roof over their head, to buy cars and put things into the economy. It's much more efficient. The Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE, more efficient to lay off everyday working class Americans and use that money for the Pentagon. I happen to disagree. The whole thing was a fraud and a scam. And part of the scam was this. Old Doge boy and his crew needed to get into the government computers. But Peter Thiel and company needed to get into everything that has your information on it, everything that has all of your information on it. Peter Thiel and the Palantir crew needed it all. And now they got it. And while they're at it, they got to lay a bunch of people off so they could get another $150 billion. You know, that it has been estimated that that's what they, quote, saved was $150 billion. And isn't it, I don't know, interesting, let's use that word, that as they laid off everyday Americans and saved $150 billion, the exact amount of money that was added to the Pentagon budget was $150 billion. So here's the bottom line. It was a scam. It was, we need the Mr. Trump and company who said, look, we got to stop wars. They needed more money for wars. And they knew that if they said to conservatives and if they said to libertarians, we're laying off workers, these lazy old workers don't do anything and we'll save money, that libertarians would believe them, would think, oh gosh, golly gee, these guys are really being us good. Yes, they're going to really do something good. The government is going to get smaller and and people are going to be gone and everything will work better. They'll save money. You thought they were acting in good faith. You thought they were acting in good faith. No, they weren't acting in good faith. They were just laying off people so they can take that money, they can put it in the Pentagon, they can launder it to hell in the Pentagon, they can fill their rotten, filthy, stinking pockets, and then they can go try to overthrow Venezuela, which ain't going to work. It ain't going to work. You know, I mean, the idea is, here's what we can do. We can fly over a country and drop bombs. Yes, you can. I think Venezuela can probably shoot back. I do think they have some air defense. We shall see. But it's a big country. But what you can't do ever, is go in on foot and fight them because you'll lose. The Israelis have been fighting. They bombed Gaza flat for months and months and months. And every time they go in on foot, Hamas and the other resistance factions kick the hell out of them, beat the hell out of them, and they end up having to withdraw every single time. They can't go in and fight them on the ground. Oh, we're going to go into Lebanon and we're going to fight there. They go into Lebanon and fight, and what happens? Hezbollah kicks their ass and sends them out. Israelis can't fight on the ground. How about the U.S.? We don't even hardly have any ground forces left. What are they? They're like, we've got 4,500 soldiers on ships. Okay. And we've got 10,000 people in Puerto Rico. I don't think it's a good idea to send 15,000 soldiers into a country the size of Germany and France combined with a revolutionary army that is there to fight, that has armed upwards of 2 million people, armed. Imagine that. Remember, and I like to bring this up on many occasions. Remember this. Maduro's the dictator and his people hate him. Okay, well, so Maduro's like, let me give all my people guns so they can fight. Have you ever heard of a dictator arming all of his people? Don't you think they turn their guns on him? Perhaps he's not a dictator, and perhaps the people support him, and you send your ass in there with a bunch of soldiers, and you're going to find out just how much of a dictator and just how much those people hate him when they light American soldiers up. They're going to get lit up if they go in there. So you can bomb or something, you can fire some Tomahawks or something like that and hope and pray to God that they don't send a bunch of Onyx missiles back at your ships and sink some of them, which is a possibility. Oh, and by the way, let me add you this. Been to South America, there's a whole lot of revolutionaries just waiting. There's a whole lot of people in South America that's been mad at the United States for overthrowing their countries for a lot of years. And if they get an opportunity and America comes there on the ground, on foot, there's going to be a whole lot of people saying, I'm going to Venezuela. Because now I finally get to face the gringos. As they're going to say, we get to face the gringos once and for all. We'll run these sons of bitches right out of town. Yeah, that's not a fight you want. And I think at some point, Trump's going to fire some missiles or do something like that. He's going to get himself. See, the thing about it is this, and I put it like this. You probably heard me say it. No Country for Old Men. Remember the coin flip, flipping the coin. What are we flipping for? What's on the, what's at stake? Everything, everything. Donald Trump, if you fire at Venezuela, it's like this. You can light a match. You can start a fight, right? It's like in a bar and there's some guy there that says, I don't want no trouble, man. And I'm gonna kick your ass. And the guy says, I don't want no trouble, man. I don't want no trouble. Just go away, leave me alone. Please, sir. I don't want any trouble. You can swing on that man if you want to, but you don't know what's coming when you swing on him. You can start a fight. You can punch him. You can throw something at him. You can spit in his face. You can slap him. You can do whatever you want to start the fight. But you don't know what happens then. Does he have a knife? Does he have a gun? Is his best friend sitting behind you? And as soon as you swing on him, his best friend clubs you right in the back of the head. Blam! And you wake up in the hospital. 2x4 upside the old pumpkin globe. And you are in the hospital. You can punch or swing or start a fight, but you never know how it's going to end. And you can't just withdraw. There was what movie was that? Where it was a mafia movie, and a guy was in a bar, and the mafia guys was in there, and they're asking the guy, who's a biker or whatever, and he's asking the guy, to leave or whatever, and the guy does something, and the guy whatever, and the mafia, and they go and lock the door, and they say to him, now you just can't leave, right? When I asked you to leave, when I asked you to walk away, you should have walked out the door. Now you can't walk out the door. Now we got a score to settle. Right? If somebody's saying Goodfellas, right? Now you just can't leave. Exactly. You go in, I'll fix you, Venezuela. Really? I'm going to screw you over. Look, we don't want any trouble. I'm going to punch you. I'll bomb you. I'll throw missiles at you. Oh, yeah. Well, watch this. And you throw a missile in. And they throw a missile back. Or they do something. They fire something. They hit one of your ships. They shoot down some of your planes. Okay, now let's dance. Let's dance. What are you going to do? You can't put troops on the ground. You put troops on the ground in Venezuela, what happens? You're going to lose troops. Trump, when the body bags start coming home, it's over for you, buddy. The Democrats will support you for a regime change war. And then as soon as it goes bad, they'll throw your ass under the bus and jump up on top of that bus and jump up and down and squish you flat. But if you're stupid enough to let that happen, see, America might need to go into Venezuela. I don't want it to see it happen. But America might need to go into Venezuela. What are you going to do? It's a big country. It literally goes into the Amazon jungle. What are you going to do? I've been there, mountains and jungles. What are you going to do in Venezuela? Are you going to go in and put troops in and walk into the city and take the city? One of the things that Venezuela has done is they've taken buses and things like that and blocked off certain roads. So there's only certain roads you can do to come into Caracas. You got to come in that city. Now you're going to come in certain roads because buses and trucks and bulldozers and stuff blocking some roads. So they've only got certain roads where you can get in and out of the city, and mountain passes. What do you think's going to happen if troops try to come down the few roads that they've left? If they've only left a few roads, they've blown some up and all that. It's all mountains. You go in, everything's up down the mountain. You only got a couple ways in and a couple ways out. You know what that's called? Kill zones. The whole country is a kill zone. Everywhere you drive, it's just like mountains. You're driving through the city, and there's hills over you and mountains and everything. Walk into the jungles. I want to walk. I remember where there was this trail, and they were like, "Hey, we could go for a walk on the trail." Oh, that sounds like a great idea. It's beautiful. It goes into the jungle. Oh my gosh, it's gorgeous. It's ferns. It's a jungle. It looks beautiful. And they're like, oh yeah. And I'm like, anything dangerous? And they're like, well, watch your step. And I'm like, and they're speaking in Spanish. I didn't really understand it. And they said something, but I understood the word viper. And I'm like, viper. Watch my step. Viper. I'm in South America. There's jungles. And there's vipers. I don't like the direction this is going. And eventually the word got to me that, yes, well, there's poisonous snakes sometimes on this trail. And if they bite you, just to say it ain't going to be a happy day. And I'm like, well, anytime you get bit by a poisonous anything, it ain't a happy day. If you get bit by a freaking I got bit once by a friend of mine had a gerbil. He had do you remember back in the day when people used to have the little gerbils and they had the little things that they play on? And that was, it was the big guinea pigs. When I was growing up, people had various kinds of pets, and guinea pigs were a big one. Gerbils were big ones. And then, of course, there was the whole gerbil thing that, I don't really talk about that everybody started talking about. And I'm like, oh boy, not that kind of gerbil. Anyway, you get my point. You don't want to get bit by anything, but I don't want to get by a viper in Venezuela. So I'm just saying, if you got to crawl through the jungles and get shot at, oh, by the way, there's poisonous snakes and poisonous spiders too. So, hey, and all kinds of things. So is that the kind of place, as somebody says, another crime against nature and the planet? Well, you know what it'll be? Nature's going to strike back. You got to wander through them jungles. So anyway, my point is this. Trump is America, and America's going to keep effing around until they FO. That's all I'm trying to say. Now, let's talk about Russia. All right, let's go there. Let's take a look. Let's talk about this. We got a few more minutes left, and I want to touch base on that. U.S. sanctions harm prospects for restoring relations. The latest U.S. sanctions against Russia are an unfriendly step that has harmed the prospects for reviving relations between the two countries, Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov has said. However, Moscow remains committed to improving bilateral ties, he added. Now, here's the bottom line. Let's be honest. Let's not pretend that the Russians are naive and they don't know what's going on. They're playing the game. They're playing the game. And they know what they're dealing with Trump. I will guarantee you that the Russians have teams of, let's not be naive. They have teams of psychiatrists reading, watching, reviewing tapes, reviewing videos of Trump, coming up with a psychological profile, and then coming up with methods that they need to use to address his particular psychological issues. I will guarantee you that. So when you look at it and you're like, why do they say that they're committed to improving bilateral ties? Why do they keep saying these things? Because they have run these things through their psychological profilers, and they have evaluated what their options are, and they've come up with the idea that we're dealing with a crazy person, and by a crazy person, I mean the entire U.S. and political institutions. All of the entirety of U.S. political institutions, and therefore this is what's in our best interest to do. But really, quite honestly, I believe that all they're doing is playing for time. They're trading time for space, as they say. All they're doing is saying, the longer we're here, the longer NATO sends in more equipment. The more NATO equipment we get to destroy. And as we destroy NATO equipment, we'll also destroy Ukrainian equipment and Ukrainian soldiers. It's a big dumpster, and NATO is filling the dumpster, and Russia is emptying the dumpster. And if I were Russia, that's exactly what I would do. I would be in. If I'm Russia, I'm in no rush. I know I'm going to win, but I don't want to win too soon. If you're stupid enough to keep sending planes and trains and automobiles, if you're stupid enough to keep sending in military equipment, I'm smart enough to keep blowing it up. And if you're sending it in faster than you can make it, which you are, and I'm blowing it up, that means at some point you're going to run out. And that's when I'll stop. I will stop when you run out. Here's what we're going to figure out. We got a numbers game playing here. You have a certain amount of war material, and I got a certain amount of high explosive. And I think I got more high explosive than you have tanks and armored personnel carriers and things of that nature. So let's find out. You keep sending in the tanks and armored personnel carriers. I'll keep blowing them up, and we'll see which one runs out first. That's what I do if I was the Russians. I got nothing but time. Meanwhile, you're going broke. Meanwhile, you're run by idiots. You're economically destroying yourselves. That's of benefit to me too. I'm building, China's building, everybody's building, and might I add, these ludicrous and absurd sanctions and tariffs are convincing the world that they should be on my side. Russia and China doesn't have to call countries, hey guys, the United States is insane. Come work with us. They ain't got to do it. They have what's called in business market insistence. Everybody wants their product. So people are calling China and they're saying, hey, Russia and China, yeah, these guys are nuts. They're insane. They're friggin' goofballs. And Russia and China's like, yeah, fair enough. Can we do business with you? Absolutely. So that's where we are. Thank you. If you're Russia and China and whoever else, thank you, Donald Trump. We could not convince the world that the United States is not a good faith actor in any better way than you do, simply by doing the things that you do. And we know what Ukraine is. See, they know what Ukraine is. They know exactly what it is. It is it's two things. For the ruling elite in the West, it is a money laundering operation par excellence. It is a money laundering operation that they never could have dreamed of, the money they're stealing out of that. For Russia, it is a way to demilitarize NATO. Par excellence. It's a way to continue to have NATO stuff pour into one nice little area. It ain't little, but into one, well, considering the size of everything. Russia's fighting 46 countries. How perfect is that? I've heard that number, 46. How perfect is that? I'm fighting 46 countries. Yeah. Geez, can I fight them all over the place? No, that's too big. I got an idea. If I got to fight them, why don't I fight them right next door? Fair enough. That way I can fire missiles and blow stuff up. Yeah. And we'll have this area, this is the contact line. They can just throw stuff here and then we'll blow it up. Great idea. And they can put it in some cities and warehouses. We'll blow them up too. Great. Excellent. And how about their air defense? More air defense. Keep sending air defense systems. Great. And what are we going to do? We're going to blow them up. This is perfect for Russia. It's great. And now that Trump's doing something, I guess, in a way different or new, and that is he's finally joined the Biden sanctions. What are you going to do? We're gonna sanction Russian oil, and basically they're going after anybody who buys Russian oil, whatever the case may be. Well, here's the problem with that, to be quite frank. You're affecting the supply, right? And what's going to happen if you affect the supply? The price is going to increase. Supply decreases, availability decreases, price rises. Russia sells oil. If I'm Russia, I can sell 100 barrels at $1 a gallon, and I make $100. Or I can sell 50 barrels at $2.50 a barrel, and I can make $250. Wow, I've made 150% more and sold half as much. You see, that's the beauty of having a commodity that everybody wants. You don't have to advertise that you're a country with oil. They'll call you, hey, you got oil? Yes, yeah, we need it. All right, fair enough. We got plenty. We got unlimited supply. We're Russia. We ain't going to run out. We're by far the biggest country in the world. And so we're loaded with gas and oil. We'll sell it to you. And the price increases. So I don't have to sell as much. And what I have will last me even longer. How terrible is that? Boy, they're really screwing Russia, aren't they? Now, who are they screwing? We got to buy gas, don't we? So the Trump administration who came in, you know what we're going to do? We're going to address inflation. Well, good news, they're addressing inflation. In a manner of speaking, they're going to make it worse. They're going to address inflation like they always do. Now, I don't imagine, to be honest, that ConocoPhillips and BP and ExxonMobil, I don't imagine that any of them are going to be angry when the price of oil goes up. The only people that are really going to be angry is us. ExxonMobil makes more money. The Russians make more money. And they don't really care if the Russians make more money. If they drive the price up, ExxonMobil, ConocoPhillips, on makes more money. So when they drive the price up, and you would say, well, they're stupid. Those dummies. They're going to rise the price up and Russia's just going to make more money, as if they don't know that. They're not doing this to hurt Russia because they know it ain't going to hurt Russia. Trump already knows it ain't going to hurt Russia. But will it help anyone? Well, let's see. Wall Street, who's doing speculation and bets on the oil futures. You don't think that before these tariffs or sanctions or anything else were signed that Wall Street was made aware so that they go out and short every damn thing? Hey, what's going on there, Trumpy? Yeah, we're getting ready to lay some tariffs on Russia, which means the price of oil probably jump by about 10%. Oh, can you wait 24 hours? Why? I got to go place some bets in the stock market. That's all they did. Trump tells them what he's going to do. They go place their bets in the casino, which is the stock market. And then when the price rises 10%, they make billions. Trump and his crew and the bankers make billions. They don't care if it costs you more. They don't care if they don't care if the economy goes to hell. They know it's going to hell anyway. They'll short it. That's the bottom line. Anyway, so there we are. There we are. The Russians, Trump is pretending like he wants peace, and the Russians are pretending like they believe him. That's all it is. He's pretending like he wants peace. They're pretending like they believe him as they continue to do their dirty work, shall we say. The Russians are like, yeah, we'll do all this talk. Meanwhile, we're surrounding these bastards in Pokrovsk or whatever. We're Kupiansk and Red Liman, Krasny Liman, and all these other places. We'll just pretend like we're bargaining with Trump. We'll keep doing our dirty work here. We'll keep sending in the butcher's bill to Ukraine. So we'll pretend like we're naive and we don't know what's going on. Trump, you keep stealing money. That's your thing. What do we care? It's your country you're screwing over. And we'll do what we got to do to protect our border. That's where we are. And Trump is the most perfect representation of the corrupt system that we could ever have. All right. Thanks a lot, everybody. Certainly appreciate people taking time out of the busy schedule to hang out with me. If you would be so kind, you can save it. You can share this on all your social media platforms. Of course, we got Patreon, we got PayPal, we got Buy Me a Coffee and Cash App if you can afford to help the channel. And of course, as always, we got a P.O. box for those who want to use snail mail. And guess what? I got a bunch of snail mail. I got all kinds of great stuff. It's awesome. I have great friends. Thank you very much for all of the stuff you send. Some people send donations. I appreciate the donations. Some guy sent me this little plastic toy, and it was like a Trump toy that shot these little rubber balls out of its mouth. It was hilarious. People send me all kinds of stuff. At any rate, thanks a lot. Have a great day. Share this on all your social media platforms. I'm out.